Welcome to another episode on Sarva Gunn Sampann. Thank you so much for joining me on this show. I have with me someone who values honesty and truthfulness the most in her life. Some of her strengths include hard work and perseverance. I'm delighted to introduce Nritya Subramaniam. Nritya, great to have you.
Hi, great to be here. And so nice to see you.
Likewise, I cannot wait to go back in time and learn all about your childhood. Let's get started.
I'm an army brat. So, been mostly in the north of India. And childhood was all about moving around from place to place, new schools, new classmates every 2 years. It was a different experience. Even when we went back to the same place, it was a different experience because everybody else had changed. I think being an army brat is a huge part of who I am because I think I learned a lot because of the fact that my dad was in the army, and a lot of who I am is because of being born and brought up in that kind of atmosphere.
So, what were some of the things that you loved doing the most? I know that you loved reading a lot.
I read a lot. I mean, that's one thing I think I constantly spent doing a lot. In fact, so much so that it would irritate my parents and my siblings because I was lost to the world. I would take a book and I was immersed in it and I would be completely lost. My mom would say, "Doodh rakha hai, ubal jayega, band kar dena." Wo ubal ke, it will become black, charred, everything. And my mom will come back and say, "Bola tha tumhe." I said, "Acha, bola tha, mujhe yaad nahi hai." But and my siblings also, I don't think I spend too much of time talking with them. They are much older to me, so uh, they were out of the house much. I mean, way before I was kind of in the stage where I wanted to like even bond with them. So yeah, I was constantly reading, and the librarian would say, "I don't have any more books for you. Just you need to go to some other library." So yeah, reading thing that I did a lot. Yes.
What were some of the books that you were reading?
I got hooked onto Woodhouse. There was a lot of being a fiction, I like mystery a lot. So of course we went through the usual things of Enid Blyton, Five, find out Secret Seven, Famous Five, all of that. I like Sherlock Holmes a lot, so I used to read, and I love rereading. So a lot of my books, even if I got them from the library, there were certain books I needed to own. I had to buy that book. Fortunately for me, my dad said, "Yeah, one book you can buy a month if you want." So a lot of books, even if I got them from the library, I read it. If I felt that that's something I needed to have, I would go buy it. So Woodhouse, I think I started when I was in maybe fifth or sixth standard, and after that, of course, a lot of Woodhouse. But a couple of my favorite authors: Woodhouse, James Herriot, Gerald Darrell, Saki. These are books that I constantly have with me, and they travel with me wherever I am.
Yeah. Any particular book that comes to mind that made the most impact?
Not from my earlier reading, but recently I read a book called Gaye, and I think that made a lot of sense to me, especially at the kind of space right now I am in. I'm very much interested in nutrition and exercise, and my professionally also that's how I'm going. So I think Ikigai made a lot of sense to me.
Got it. How about your friends growing up? Did you have a lot of friends? Were you one of those very introvert kind of?
I was very introverted. Yes, I was very introverted. I probably had maybe just one or two friends. I don't think I had more than one friend or two friends. But very interestingly, I find that I am more in touch with my school friends, even though I might have spent only like a couple of years with each of them at a time. And not with my college friends so much. I did my MBBS 5 years in the same place. I don't think I have that much of a connect with my college. I have more of a connect with my school friends. And one thing about me is that I end up keeping in touch. So I really make an effort to stay in touch with people. So
Yeah, I heard a lot about
yeah.
you being the connector, connecting everybody on Facebook.
I kind of make sure that I'm finding the person who I want to connect with, and I make sure that I find them. So yeah, I'm quite dogged in that. Yes.
Yeah. What part of the country do you spend most of the time? And I know Uncle was in the army, so you were traveling a lot. Was there any one place that you kind of?
Mao has been, I mean, it's my favorite. So that's in Madhya Pradesh. It's about 20 kilometers from Indore. It's a short form for military headquarters of war. It was a very quaint city. I'm not sure how it is now. I'm sure it's changed a lot. But yeah, Mao will always be special because it's basically a military town. It's a cantonment, most of it. And I loved cycling, so I went everywhere. Evening after coming back from school, I learned swimming there because the pool was very close. I love the water, so that's something else that connects Mao. Mao is definitely very special.
Is any particular art form that you pursued?
Yeah, I learned Bharatanatyam. I think that is something that all kids, especially girls from a South Indian background, kind of did, that you learned Bharatanatyam. My sister is a dancer. My mom is also a dancer. My mom's also a Carnatic musician. So while growing up, yes, Bharatanatyam was something that I started learning, I think, when I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old. I also learned a little bit of Carnatic music on and off. My mom was very keen that I learned. I learned an instrument, so I learned guitar. So all that was also based on where we were. So I learned guitar for some time, and then I learned the violin for some time. But I think I would have really liked to learn a percussion instrument. I think I would like to learn the drums. That's somewhere on my to-do list. So maybe
sometime,
might happen.
What else do you recollect about your childhood? Who among your parents or your siblings or relatives or friends had the greatest influence on you growing up?
Parents had a lot of impact. My dad, especially, I look up to him a lot. He's very disciplined. There are certain things about him. So I actually really wanted to join the army, I think, because my dad was in the army. So I ended up doing that, of course. But yeah, I look up to my dad a lot. Even my mom, there are certain qualities of hers. I mean, she's the most patient woman I've ever known. I really don't understand how she could have been so patient. So every time, especially while raising my kids, at some point, if I was losing my temper, the only thing I would think was, Amma never did this. My mom and dad never lost their temper with us. And whatever be the, the situation, my mom has never, ever raised her voice even. And she's like so completely, she's a very chilled out person. I'm very nervous, and exams and all would really freak me out a lot. So there's this one time I remember I was very worried about my medical exams, my final exams, and I called up my mom and I was just speaking to her, and she's like, "Kya hoga? Fail hi ho jaogi na? Kuch nahi hoga. To kya hota hai? It's not like we stop loving you. It's not like the world is going to come to an end. Koi baat nahi, agli baar de dena." And I'm like, "Amma, you can't talk like this."
I wish all the parents in India were like that, especially down south, where there's so much pressure on kids to get into medical school and engineering school. At least, I don't know how it's now, but definitely when we were growing up, I think that was the case, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the case. So I think, yeah, my mom and dad definitely didn't fit the bill. And they've always allowed us to do what we wanted to. There was never like, I need you to do this or I need you to do that. So we followed our own path. So I think that was really nice. Even my siblings, even though there was a lot of age difference between us, my sister, she made me kind of fend for myself, because she said, I'm not going to help you do anything. You need to do everything on your own. And my brother was always there at any point. He always was there to entertain me in the sense I got interested in sports because of him, because he would say, let's play cricket, let's play golf. He's interested in all the sports. He doesn't have one particular favorite sport. So
what did you pursue? Did you pursue any particular sport then?
No, not really. But we played a lot of badminton. We had one golf ball and one golf stick, so we would do some pretend golf. So all kinds of games while growing up. Yeah, he used to play chess, and he was a squash player too.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think little bit of all of them, yes.
You are a medical doctor, so you obviously were thinking about becoming a doctor even in your high school. So talk to me about that next phase.
So I think I kind of decided that I wanted to be a doctor when I was in 8th standard. I don't know really why. I sometimes feel that at that time, the only way you could get into the army was because you had to be a doctor. It wasn't open for the other areas. Now, of course, you can get into other corps also. But at that time, army was the only way you could get into the army. So maybe that kind of played a part in my decision, because I definitely did want to join the army. But I loved being a doctor. I don't think if I had to take this decision again, I would definitely end up doing the same thing. I loved biology. I remember the section used to be something which I used to look forward to, because they don't have rad section anymore. But yeah, those were really very interesting times. And I joined medicine college. I did my myself, which actually was quite a rude shock, because I'm South Indian, but grew up mostly in the north, so not very typically. I'm not really from anywhere. When people used to ask me where you're from, I used to struggle to say a particular place, because I kind of felt I was from everywhere. I was from India. I was not this particular part or that particular part. But I struggled with that in college, because they were very particular. They wanted to know whether you are Tamilian or Punjabi or whatever. They wanted to slot you. So I struggled with that. That was a bit of a challenge, because I never figured out why I had to be from one particular place. I found myself, when people were talking about stereotyping South Indian things, I would jump to their defense. When they were stereotyping North Indian people, I would jump to their defense. I was kind of in both camps.
So how did you then, how long was that whole journey through the medical school, and what did you specialize in?
I was in medical school. After that, I joined the army. And the army was a very good experience. I was posted I got commissioned in a place called Nampum, which is in Jharkhand. So that was very interesting, because that was my first posting. It was such a lovely place. I loved it. And everybody was very welcoming. And, I was the youngster, so I was the baby. So I was pampered by everybody. And I had a lovely time in the army. Then I got posted to Tawang, which is in Arunachal Pradesh. And that was a high altitude area. And there was a sense of, it's not something that is said. The general vibe was that because you're a lady medical officer, a woman, you won't do the PT, you won't do any physical activity like how the male medical officers would do, right? Yeah. So I was very acutely aware of that. And so I was very sure that I'm going to prove that wrong. So I ended up, I was there every morning. If the men ran like whatever in the high altitude, if we ran till 2.5 kilometers, I would try and run till 3 kilometers, because I didn't want anybody saying that you're taking it easy because you're a woman, and so that nobody's going to say anything to you. So I did make sure that I was always doing definitely what I was supposed to do, and sometimes maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah, but isn't that true of every field where women have to work harder to prove themselves?
Yeah. So but it was a good, the army was a really good experience. I like the fact, somewhere I do feel that it's good for everybody to join the army, because you are very adaptable. You get thrown into different situations. Suddenly you have to go somewhere. The preparedness is there constantly. You have to be always prepared for whatever is thrown at you. So I think it's a good life skill to have. So
absolutely. Yeah. So Nritya, tell me about the process. How did you get into, how did you get selected for the army? What was the process?
There's an application which comes out in the newspaper because you're joining the Army Medical Corps.
Okay.
Of course, if you want to join, then you have your entrance exam for AFMC. I did my MBBS outside and then joined. But if you join AFMC, of course, you will get commissioned as an officer.
Okay.
But if you want to join the army after you've completed your MBBS, there's an advertisement which comes out. You apply. they call you for an interview. There is also a physical bit of it.
Yeah.
And you have a kind of an entrance test, a small thing, and they have an interview where you are interviewed by everybody on both aspects. You're interviewed on your medical knowledge and also general. So I was asked questions like about books, and they asked me about Russian authors, and I actually like Russian authors. So they asked, what are the books you've read? So when I said Crime and Punishment and all, all of that. So yeah, that also helped in my interview a lot.
So, and I'm assuming a lot of general knowledge as well, right?
Yeah.
In that section, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and then how rigorous was the training? You said you did.
Yeah, you have a physical training where you have to do the physical part, run so many kilometers, and we need to know how to fire guns. So we learned all of that.
And how long did this whole process take?
The training is only 2 months for medical officers. It's called medical officers based course. So you do that for 2 months. You are stationed in Lucknow. That's where the medical center is for training. So you spend 2 months there learning all the things about non-medical things about being in the army. I finished my MBBS. I did my internship and I applied, and I got selected after the interview, and it took about maybe 6 months from the time I applied, and then I got commissioned.
Got it. And then, so what happened after that? You got married at some point. And,
yeah. My husband also joined the army. Both of us were actually college mates. So both of us joined the army together. And we served our short service commission 5 years. I also had my first son. He was born while I was in the army. But our decision was that we'd do 5 years and then we quit and back to Madras. So we did the 5 years and we settled down in Madras, or Chennai as people know it now. That was a different experience because I don't think about staying in a place for too long. And I think now I can my husband keeps making fun of me saying, you'll never say where you're from. So I think now I've spent like over 10 years here. So now I think I'm comfortable saying, okay, I'm from Chennai or from Madras.
We'll talk about your work. So that's our next segment, which is Kaam Ki Baat. And I'd love to learn about, the kind of impact that you're able to make on so many lives as a physician. So please speak to that.
I'm a family physician. I did my family medicine diploma from CMC Vellore. The reason I got interested in family medicine was because while in the army, you are a general duty medical officer. So you kind of see everybody. You're the first point of contact. And when I was, sorry, I'm just going to digress and say that after I finished my MBBS, I had these big plans that I wanted to be a pediatrician or I wanted to be a cardiologist and all of that. But while being in the army, I realized that I really like seeing patients with all kind of problems. I didn't want to specifically look at only one point. So I liked it that I could see babies, I could see elderly people, because I was in something called a family OPD. So I saw the ex-servicemen, I saw the families of service people. So I had, mothers and fathers of service men coming, and I saw babies and I saw pregnant women. I saw everybody. So I liked that. So, and I found that after finishing my tenure in the army, family medicine was a specialty where I could continue to do something like that. So I ended up doing that, and now I've been practicing here in Madras for about 13 years. I practice in a clinic called Sitapati Clinic. It's a private clinic. It's mainly an obstetric and surgical practice. So yeah, I also find that I am the family doctor for a lot of families. It's a nice feeling because I know all the members in the family and I know their histories, and I know that they are comfortable with me because that rapport is there. So it's a nice feeling to be a family physician.
I know you consult with your patients one-on-one, but in general, are there any specific issues that you notice where you feel that we need?
Yeah, so I mean, right now I think in the world over and in India, especially diabetes is really taken over. So we see so many people who are having either pre-diabetes or diabetes that it's quite alarming. And so I also did my lifestyle medicine certification. So in lifestyle medicine, we focus on primarily nutrition and exercise, and also look at sleep and emotional health and mental health to address chronic diseases. And I have become, so I was always interested in exercise. Exercise was something that has always been a part of my life. But in the recent past, I've realized that nutrition plays a huge, huge role. And we are not aware of how much nutrition can impact our health. And so right now, yeah, my mission is that, I tell everybody to eat healthy and exercise and take care of their sleep and mental stress, especially women. I feel that, women tend to put their health in a backseat. They're all worried once, especially after you get married. They're all about the husband and the kids, and they don't take care of their health. So they need to focus on that. So in all my consultations, even if a patient is coming to me for a cold cough, I do end up talking about nutrition and talking about exercise and sleep, even if that's not what they have come to me for. I emphasize a lot on nutrition and exercise.
That's great. Any advice for women that are having issues dealing with stress?
Yeah, I think women tend to take on too much onto themselves, and they kind of become responsible for they feel that they're responsible for everything that's happening around them.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of it has to come within ourselves. We need to kind of let go and decide that there are certain things that we can control and certain things we can't. And I think more women need to indulge in a little bit of self-care. Self-care doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, go and have a massage or something like that. It's just that you need to spend at least some time on yourself. It can be whatever you want to do. It doesn't necessarily need to be something for a whole day. It can even be for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but a little bit of time for yourself is important. And I also feel that there's a lot of, the superwoman, like you have to be doing everything. You have to be great at whatever you are doing. Sometimes that doesn't happen. You're good at doing certain things. There are certain things which are better off done by other people. So if there are certain things like that, you should just outsource that and just focus on what you can do. Right. And not try and combine everything. I think women also, inherently, we are multitaskers. So we tend to take on more because I think we just can.
Yeah, and that also plays out in the marriage, right? With your partner, where you feel that the other person needs to do more, but you're also in a position where you're like you want everything done specifically your way, so you get in the way, more than helpful, right?
Yeah. So that happens also because you feel that you can do it, and so it's just faster to do it on your own instead of depending on other people. That also happens a lot. So yeah, I think just letting go a little bit would be good for everybody. But women definitely need to take care of their health more. They need to focus on their health and not just constantly put that on the back seat and say, we'll deal with this later. Because, especially in India, I feel, the household is fine when the woman of the household is good. The minute she falls sick, everything kind of comes to a stop. So it's very important that they take care of themselves.
Okay, we'll move on to our next segment, which is about your X factor. So talk about your personality here.
So I've already touched on the fact that I love to read. So I found that in between I wasn't reading as much as I wanted to, and so I've joined a book club for the last few years, and we have a book which is selected every month. And I'm also the kind of person that if you give me a job, I need to do it. So if I'm given a book for a month, I definitely need to read it within that month. So that helps me. That way I'm also reading books. Also, I got very comfortable reading the same kind of books every time. So now I get books which I may not necessarily like, but I do end up reading that. So that's something that I've started doing. But I also like adventure a lot. So we, as a family, we've started going on treks. Every year we try and do a trek. We also took up scuba diving, which I absolutely love because, when you're inside in the water, I can hear only my breathing. I can't hear anything else. And I can see all these beautiful fish swimming by and the lovely coral. And it's such a calming effect. It's like there's nobody, there's just me, that you are so conscious because you can hear only your breath going in and out. And that's something that's quite amazing. I'm so glad that we took that up. I love the water, so I love swimming, but I was also a little worried about going underwater and staying underwater. But once we learned how to do the scuba diving, I mean, that's been something which has been really brilliant. But there are a few things that I still want to do. I've always wanted to learn how to horse ride, and I'm hoping at some point I'll get around to doing that. I also, like I said, I love dancing. So apart from the traditional dance, I would like to explore. So I'm always looking to see where I can fit in something else in my schedule. The other thing that I've started doing from 2015 is I strength train regularly. So I lift weights regularly, and I never knew that I could actually do what I am able to do now. So that's something that is new for me. The sudden realization that you can be strong and you can gain strength. I think in all my years, I think right now I'm at my fittest and at my strongest.
Yeah. How did you decide on strength training, and what were the initial struggles and challenges in, just starting, because it's just the starting trouble? And how did you sustain that? Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, so strength training started because I did have, once I turned 40, I had a lot of aches and pains. Something new would crop up, and it was very irritating because something or the other was constantly hurting. And so I was doing a lot of research, and whatever I read led me to strength training. And fortunately, there's a gym very close by near my house. It's called Movementing. So I went and I joined up. And so I have a lot of tendon issues, so I couldn't squat and I couldn't do a lot of moves, and slowly, I found that I was getting better at it and I was getting stronger, and all my aches and pains were manageable. I mean, they still hurt, but not to the extent that they prevent me from doing things. And then it was just the energy of the place and the community, the community in the gym. Everybody is constantly, you see somebody doing and you want to kind of do either the same or the better. That competitiveness comes in. So
how many times in a week do you recommend strength training?
2 to 3 times a week. Yeah, definitely. 3 times a week, you need to strength train. Everybody needs to strength train. So I'm very glad that my kids also are into strength training now. They've been seeing me going to the gym. So they also go to the gym. In fact, they love it so much that on the days that they have they work out in the evenings, I work out in the mornings. On the days that they have their gym days, we can't do anything else because they don't want to miss gym. So no planning. Even if my husband or I want to go out for a dinner, or we say, let's just go out somewhere, they're like, no, there's a gym there. We can't go anywhere. So yeah, I mean, that's something that is new, and it's definitely something that I love a lot. And that's something I can't think of not going to the gym is something that is not possible.
Especially now that you have the whole family on board and, it's become like a family.
Absolutely.
If there are women who want to do this, take it on, and it's much later in life, they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s. A couple of questions. Is there a age limit to when you can start strength training? And then secondly, for women who don't have access to gyms, who don't have the time to do it, Are there any things they can do in their daily routine, whether they're in the kitchen or, around the house, that they can incorporate some of this, even without, those dumbbells and all the equipment that you need? Any suggestions on that?
Yeah, so strength training doesn't necessarily need equipment all the time. Okay, so basically you are building muscle, you're becoming strong. So it can also be done with body weight. And slowly, as you get stronger, of course, it is good for you to introduce some resistance. But you have resistance band, it doesn't necessarily need to be with weights. And strength training can be taken up at any age. It's actually very good because it improves your muscle strength. It also improves your cognitive ability. Okay, so and it can prevent falls and injuries. As we grow older, we tend to lose muscle mass, and our balance, all of that also declines. So once you start strength training, you build it's actually a whole body thing. It's not just certain things that improve. A lot of things improve. So your cognitive, because you're doing multiple exercises, so you improve your cognition, your joint strength, your balance, everything improves. So I would recommend strength training at any point to everybody, unless of course they have some really physically limiting or some other problems. But the thing about strength training is it also definitely does need to be done under supervision, at least initially.
Yeah.
Because you need to know how to do it, because if you do it wrong, you're going to end up injuring yourself.
Yeah.
You do need to do it under supervision, but it can be incorporated. It doesn't necessarily need to be long duration, or you have to go to the gym. Yeah. Especially after the pandemic, a lot of people have started doing online training also. So one-on-one online training, as long as somebody is looking at you and making sure that you're not doing something where you're injuring yourself or you're in the wrong posture, that should be fine. And yeah, certain moves definitely can be incorporated in your daily life. So that's the another thing that I would like to do is that a lot of these things are only available to people who have access to them. Like you said, especially a lot in India, especially a lot of people don't have access to the gym or cannot afford to go to the gym. So it should be health shouldn't be something which is available only to people who can afford it, right? So it has to be made available to everybody. So right now, I am trying to figure out how we can maybe design something, or I can work with somebody where everybody from people from any strata of the society can do something. It doesn't have to be the ideal thing, but they can definitely do something which will help them, because any amount of strength training will help. It's not that you have to do big weights, or any little amount of exercise will help.
Right. And there is, like you said, there is no age limit on when you can start.
There is no.
The older the better, because the falls tend to happen, as age.
You grow older. Yeah. So strength training is very important, and anybody who can start strength training should, of course, definitely go to your physician and make sure that you are okay to start a program. That's always there. And like I said, it's always done better under supervision. Make sure that you go to somebody who can tell you how to go about it. As you go into the program, you yourself will realize how, you become more aware of your body. A lot of times it's just that we are not aware of what certain positions are, how to lift something, how to hold something. But as you get better at it, you will be a little more aware and you'll get better.
All right. What else do you want to talk about, when it comes to self-care? Because I think some of this also applies to that. You're taking care of your muscles, joints, and all of that. What else do you do on a daily basis to take care of your emotional health and your mental and spiritual health? Do you have any particular things that you do?
I talk to my mom every day. We have a particular time that I call her up and I talk to her every day. I think that's very important. And I hug my kids a lot. Sometimes they don't like it as they're growing older, but they do. And my husband is a huge source of strength for me. And uh, I have to talk to him and I need to know about his day, even though it's the same thing again and again. I will ask him, what did you do in your day? We sit down and we do talk. Even he's an anesthetist, so he's sometimes really busy. And so if I have not been able to catch up with him during the day, I will call him up if he's in the hospital, call him up and tell me about your day. So that all those things help me kind of unwind.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel like communication is becoming a lost art, even within a unit like a family, where social media is completely percolated and taken over our lives, where we don't
I
have to
think
talk to each other?
the perception is definitely is very different. Like sometimes I have this conversation with my kids where I tell them that they need to talk to their friends. Okay. And my older one says, why do you want me to talk to them? I'm like, no, pick up the phone and call. Why? What is this need to? What is this constant chatting? Why are you only messaging them?
Yeah.
Like, what is your problem? This is how we are connecting. This is how we do things now. So you want us to connect? We are connecting. I'm in touch with all my friends. I chat with them every day. Just because I'm not doing it the way you were doing it or the way you do it doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. It's just how it is. So that is a different way of looking at it. But I guess, yeah, things have changed a lot. Kids are more comfortable just chatting. They don't feel the need to pick up the phone. If I write more than, if I start writing messages which are more than like 2 sentences long, I feel like it's just better to, press the call button and talk to the person instead of messaging. But yeah, communication is becoming a bit of a lost art, I feel, because people tend to just generally message for everything.
Yeah, and that is also a form of self-care, right? Where you're talking to somebody, expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, not everybody likes to talk, but then there are people that do that as a form of, fulfillment and really taking care of themselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All
Apart
right.
from, I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe in God, and I like to go to temples, but I don't like to go to temples when they're crowded and noisy. So I generally go to a particular temple where it's very quiet, and maybe just sit there for some time. Uh, I'm very fond of Vinayaka, so he's my favorite god because I feel he's very pretty, he's very beautiful. Even though he's very unconventional looking, with the elephant head and pot belly and all of that. But I love Vinayaka, and I end up getting a Vigraham idols of Vinayaka whenever I can.
Yeah.
I don't think I can ever have enough of them.
Yeah.
So that is something that I also do once in a while. I just go to the temple and just maybe 5-10 minutes and come back.
Yeah. Do you do meditation?
I don't do meditation, but there are certain things that I do in the morning. I like to listen to Hanuman Chalisa. It just calms me. So yeah, there are certain things that I do routinely.
What kind of nutrition do you follow? And I'm being a little selfish here, asking a doctor and getting some free advice while I can do it.
So like I said, started practicing lifestyle medicine, and in lifestyle medicine, we focus on a whole food, predominantly plant-based diet. So I was vegetarian to begin with, but since 2021, I have given up dairy. So I don't use dairy products.
Yeah.
And I find that has made a lot of impact on my health.
Yeah.
I definitely feel better. I did have a few gut issues which seem to have disappeared after I transitioned to this.
Yeah.
I don't you so I think more than diet. I think the main problem across all, I think I would probably say across all of India would be that we don't have enough vegetables. I mean, we are predominantly known as a vegetarian country. When you talk about vegetarianism, India is what comes to mind, but I don't think we have enough vegetables.
Yeah.
So I try to have vegetables all 3 meals, and I try to predominantly focus on vegetables.
Yeah.
My
See,
grain consumption may not be so much.
okay. What's your typical, nutrition like on a day-to-day basis? Do you have like a plan that you follow?
I'm a very person who sticks to a routine. I go by the clock and I need a routine. I can't do random things. So yeah, my breakfast is usually absolutely. I think I completely get it from my dad because I need discipline. I can't manage without discipline. So so my breakfast is usually a salad and a fruit.
Okay.
And my lunch is also a lot of vegetables. I start with a salad. I might have dal or a kutu or sabji. I may not have rice or chapati. If I have, I generally have black rice. If I have chapati, I might have one roti. Dinner is actually very early. I try and finish my dinner by 6:30 latest. Again, it's either mostly a vegetable and some vegetable in the form of salad. I like salads a lot, so I have a lot of salad. And it might be muesli. I like muesli a lot, so I have a particular brand which doesn't have any added sugar and all, so I use that. So that's my usual typical day.
Well, that's great. That's helpful because there's just so much information online. You read everything and then you come across different research that suggests something else. So it's very confusing. Sometimes, whether it's good to have frozen vegetables or, you should have fresh vegetables and what's the serving size. And so it's very overwhelming, right?
Yeah. So I think it's good to focus more on, like I said, I feel that the major problem is that people don't have enough vegetables. Yeah. The minute they start incorporating more vegetables in their everyday routine, it would help them with everything because vegetables really give you a lot. I mean, they have a lot of fiber, of course, and they also have a lot of vitamins and minerals and, nutrients which may not necessarily be there in your grains. Because India, as a rule, we are a very grain-based diet. I mean, in South India, generally your breakfast would be idli or dosa or upma. Vegetables are not really included in that. You have only your chutneys. Vegetable is mainly a lunch accompaniment. And there also you are having more of either rice or chapati instead of having more of vegetables. Yeah. And dinner again, at least in the South, becomes again tiffin, like they call it. They have idli or dosa. Again, there is no vegetable. So I think the consumption of vegetables is pretty low. So the minute we go up on that, it helps. So, I mean, I generally tell all my patients that 50% of their plate should be vegetables. Make sure that 50% of your plate is vegetables. Yeah. It's good to include more vegetable, more variety in your diet.
Yeah. What about multivitamins? Like when people don't have enough nutrients coming in from what they're eating because they don't have time to pay attention to what they're eating. Are those something that you recommend to your patients? Multivitamins, do they really help?
Not unless there is definitely a nutrient deficiency. So if I feel that they might have a nutrition deficiency, then otherwise, if they are having, like I said, if they are having lots of vegetables and having some fruits and nuts, then they would generally you will get your all your nutrients. There is really no need to supplement. Of course, vitamin D needs supplementation, and if you follow a predominantly plant-based diet, then you will be deficient in vitamin B12, so you need to take a B12 supplement. But otherwise, if you are having lots of vegetables, fruits, it should be okay.
Awesome. Well, that's great advice. We got some good advice from a medical doctor. Nritya, any other, words of advice for our guests as we wrap up the conversation?
Well, yeah, I would definitely, again, like I said, I'm very passionate about strength training and exercise. So I do feel that everybody should strength train. So if, especially women, it's really important because we tend to kind of let everything go. So, women should start strength training. And like I said, any amount is fine. If you're not able to do, I mean, the recommendation is that you need to do at least 2 to 3 times a week. But even if you're doing it once a week, it's fine. Just get started. And nutrition-wise, also make sure that you're having a lot of vegetables. And women should focus on themselves a little bit, give themselves some love and not only focus on other things.
I want to thank you so much for coming and talking to me on this show. It was a pleasure. You
Thanks.
got to see the other side of Nritya. I know you're generally a quiet person. You've got a bias for action, so you're like a karma yogi.
Yes.
No pressure. But, I really want to thank you, Nritya. It's been a pleasure.
It's been lovely talking to you and lovely seeing you again. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.
Bye. You too. Bye.